Hey, what's up? What's up? This is Julia Jessie, a proud correspondent of Converge Media. And I'm here with the long hair fool, Mr. Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald. What's up, Mike?
Hey, how you doing tonight, Julia?
Good. You on daddy duty, I see.
Yeah, man. Kids is up there acting a fool right now.
That's good though. They want to see what dad's doing downstairs. I'm doing the show. Guys, I'm doing the show.
Yeah, y'all might hear me yelling at them, man. It sounds like they're up there playing football or something. I have no idea. I just hear banging.
Listen, kids always bring character to the show. I'm sure people want to see you in your father role. But it's Thursday. It's been a long week. I feel like, these weeks just keep getting longer and longer. Are we out of February yet? I mean, what's going on, y'all?
Can't even tell, man. It's crazy. It's crazy around here. Like I'm happy to be here right now, but we got a lot going on in Seattle right now.
Well, look, there's a lot going on in our nation. Let's talk about these headlines. We are going to chop it up today, give you some updates on the Chad Wheeler story. We said we were going to be following that, so we want to stick to our word. So we're going to follow up with that. The victim has made some statements, so we're going to see where the conversation lives now that we have more. Some updates on the STEMI. Everybody wants to know about that, so let's see where we're at with that. I need a little dough cheese in my pocket too. FEMA is now offering families some funeral expense relief, the first of its kind. So we're excited to talk about that and share that information with you guys. A little bit about Black History Month, of course, and some things going on in the country of somebody trying to opt out. And then, of course, we're going to clap back at day 1, 2, and 3 of this Trump impeachment trial. And we can't end the show without talking about the conspiracy that is QAnon. And we have Mike Davis to share his thoughts on that. So glad to have you guys here. Let's get right into it. So first things first, Chad Wheeler story. We have a clip. Let's play that, Amari, and let's see what our thoughts are after that.
I just immediately knew the look in his eyes. That was it.
Taylor, who is 5'9", says that's when Wheeler, 6'7", weighing more than 300 pounds, tried to choke her. According to Taylor, she blacked out twice before the attack was over.
I had touched my face, and I looked down, and there was blood on my hand. And I remember getting up and running to the bathroom. Chad was standing by the bed, by the doorway, and he was sipping his smoothie. And was like, wow, you're still alive.
Please help me now. I'm gonna die.
Taylor says she then locked herself in the bathroom, called 911, and texted her family and Wheeler's father for help. According to police reports, it took 3 officers and 2 sets of handcuffs to restrain Wheeler. Police said Wheeler kept apologizing as he was arrested.
Do you think that Chad's behavior is directly connected to a mental health issue?
To be honest, I don't know. He went and ate dinner after doing this to me, and he didn't take the same approach with the cops as he did with me.
The Seahawks dropped Wheeler, saying the team strongly condemns this act of domestic violence. If convicted, Wheeler faces 8 to 12 years in prison. Last week, he pleaded not guilty to 2 domestic violence-related charges and 1 count of resisting arrest. Taylor was in the courtroom.
Why was it so important for you to appear in court?
I didn't want him to think that he had that power over me, that I wasn't going to defend myself. And I thought, how easy would that be for him and his legal team to be able to say whatever they want without having to look me in the eye.
Do you think he should serve prison time for what he did to you?
Yes. Yes, I definitely do think that he should. I have to say the hardest part of all this wasn't the surgeries, it wasn't any of that. It was getting a call from my niece and nephews. They thought they had lost me. And the pain in their voice, I will never forget that. I will never forget that.
And she doesn't want her story to be forgotten either.
How grateful are you to be alive?
Beyond grateful, I really feel like God has blessed me with another chance, and I want to try to use the time I've been blessed with to help other people and to get this story out and make sure people don't feel alone and that this doesn't happen again.
Wow. One thing that I took straight from this, well, first of all, I commend the strength of Aaliyah Taylor in coming out and, speaking her truth and, really the facts that kind of came out in this case initially seems to be exactly as it was reported. I think the only thing that stood out to me was, the interviewer asked her, do you think this was kind of connected to mental health issues? And she said she wasn't sure. And I think, I think that's a good stance because she's not necessarily qualified to say so. A little bit more, like he had mentioned in the clip that we did not show, is that he had shaved his hair off the same day of the attack. And so I do believe, that mental illness probably does take its place here in that. But, ultimately a crime was committed, whether you want to call it domestic violence or you want to call it, attempted murder. But, it's definitely something that he needs to take accountability for. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%, and I think that the biggest thing that jumps out to me in that clip is Miss Taylor's strength. I mean, it takes courage to sit in that courtroom. It took courage to live through what she lived through and to actually be able to make the 911 call. So, I mean, she showed a tremendous amount of strength and a tremendous amount of courage faced with this, with this crazy situation. But I think we said it before, but I'll say it here again, we're not going to let this story get swept under the rug, not here on our platform. We'll definitely follow this all the way through. I just hope that she gets justice and, mental health issue or not, you have to be accountable. I mean, you can't just do this to a woman. You can't just do this to a Black woman. There's no excuse for that. And I like that the interviewer did follow up and ask if she thought that he should serve prison time for this. And she said yes, because he absolutely should. So I look forward to staying on top of this and making sure that people stay informed in our audience so that we can see this all the way through. And I just hope that we actually see justice served in the end.
Well, absolutely. And I think we likely will because, this young lady, she's not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
One thing that she said is that, God gave her life back and she intends to use the life that she has to, help other people. So, I'm taken aback by the story, but I hope that in addition to fighting this battle, that she gets her own mental health addressed, because this definitely is going to have some long-lasting effects, both physically, as she said, she has a bolt and screws in her arm that she'll have forever, as well as mentally. So blessings and love to Taylor, and
we will follow up.
Absolutely. So on to some new stuff. It always is weird to transition when we talk about these heavy topics to something a little bit more exciting. But speaking of things that are a little bit more exciting, we see that the Biden administration is sticking to their guns on this additional $1,400 stimulus, and they cannot back off from that. I do think we have a clip, so let's play that and come on back.
Let's start with the stimulus package. Democrats are not budging on the $1,400 checks, but they did cut off relief at $200,000 for household incomes. How are Republicans responding today?
Well, it's interesting. There was a push by 10 moderate Senate Republicans to lower the threshold and lower the amounts. They wanted a $1,000 payment that would completely phase out by $50,000 of individual income, or $100,000 of joint income. And the Democrats and the Biden administration are just saying no. When they campaigned in Georgia for those two crucial Senate seats, they said it would be a $2,000 check, including the $600 from the December stimulus bill. So they cannot compromise on the amount. Now, there was a discussion among Democrats to lower the initial phasing out from 75 $1,000 to $50,000 and then have it, phase out from there. And they decided not to do that. So people making $75,000, $150,000 couple would get the full $1,400. But yes, it would completely phase out of $200,000 per couple. There was a worry that, at least among moderates, that if you had multiple children and dependents, under the old formula, you could be making $300,000 or $400,000 and still get some relief. And this hard stop would prevent that. Now, Republicans, they're just not going along with this plan at all. They're looking for a much smaller, this change doesn't really get them on board. Looking for something in perhaps in the $600 billion total range. And we're talking about a $2 trillion stimulus. It's going to be pretty much Democrat only.
So there is a new threshold in place. I'll let you take the lead. Give us your feedback on this, Mike.
I don't know how it still amazes me sometimes how out of touch some of these politicians are with real people. But these politicians are so out of touch with real people. I mean, just watching inside the Democratic Party, this debate play out over how much $50,000 a year really is. And, can you afford to eat on $75,000? And it's just like, what's wrong with these people? And I mean, if you qualify for the 600, you should qualify for the rest. Like, I don't understand why we would create a sliding scale. We're still in this pandemic. Unemployment is still way up. We still don't have enough vaccines to go around for everybody right now. I know that there are new reports that Joe Biden has purchased more vaccines, but they're not here and they're not being distributed right now. Why not just give the relief that we need? I mean, I get the Republicans are going to go Republican, whatever. But like, even within the Democratic Party, I mean, this is what you campaigned on in Georgia. This is what got you reelected. Don't backpedal in any way, shape, or form. Just give people the relief that they need. I mean, it never sounds like this when we're talking about corporations. It never sounds like this when we're talking about banks. But whenever it's real people like me, like you, like everybody watching, then we always have to backpedal. And it's just hard to not be fed up. It really is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And in fact, I'm glad to see that, even our audience is in agreement that, to place a $200,000 threshold seems so super low. I mean, you think about if you make $200,000 a year, you're likely, have a family, and
Right.
have large expenses. You likely have student loan debt. You likely have multiple car payments. You likely have, just more expenses overall. And so to say that someone who makes 200,000 to say, oh, that's, they just make too much money to get, financial assistance during a state of emergency, during a pandemic, just seems very judgmental, very critical, very non-human at a time where Americans need it most. And I'm definitely, opposed to this threshold. I think that whoever got stimulus checks the first time around needs to get a stimulus the second time around.
It should be that simple. And the idea of not wanting to take the amount of kids in your household into consideration. I mean, who are these people making these type of decisions? Like, what types of lives do they live? It's just, I mean, they're so out of touch. Like, we elect people that's supposed to represent us, but how can I, as a voter, find somebody to represent me if this is the type of conversations that they have within the party? Because obviously you don't understand what it's like to be an actual everyday American.
And the people need the money right now. Thank you, Leon. I mean, people
Absolutely.
need the money right now.
Yeah.
So all of this argument and back and forth, I mean, we need to speed things along. I'm just glad that the Biden administration is not backing down from their campaign promises. So let's continue to hold them accountable. We'll continue to update you guys on this. And, hopefully those checks will be in the mail. I mean, let's just say less.
Yeah.
Right. Moving forward, something that, my mom had actually sent me was this article on FEMA now offering to support Americans with funeral costs. And so I'm really excited. We have a clip to give you guys some more information. Let's watch it and we'll come and talk about it.
Lawmakers put a plan into place to financially help families who lost a loved one to coronavirus.
Today, Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez appeared together to announce the money will help grieving families pay for a proper burial.
Here's political reporter Dave Evans.
Families also are having to deal with having to pay for the storage of the bodies of their own loved ones. This is wrong.
In Corona today, in one of the city's hardest hit areas of the pandemic, an offer of help from the federal government for those grieving and struggling with COVID funeral costs.
And I lost my dad when I was about 18 years old. And the funeral expenses haunted and followed my family along with many other families in a similar position for years.
FEMA did the same thing in Sandy with helping to defray funeral costs, and this time it's up to $7,000. If you want to apply, you have to show identification and proof of relation to the deceased. You'll need a death certificate and proof of funeral expenses. Money for the program is in the COVID relief bill that passed last year.
Many of these families, because of COVID, don't have money for a proper funeral and a proper burial.
Mike, I can't tell you how much this is going to help myself and my, other members of my family. I don't know how many GoFundMe's we have done to get funeral costs passed. We just, like I said, we buried my uncle at the top of January the 4th, and we didn't have enough money for the funeral. To have a funeral, just for cremation alone is anywhere from between, $2,500 at the low to, $3,000 at the high. And this is something that needed to have happened a long time. And I'll share something else with you guys. When my grandmother passed from COVID, we fought to have the medical examiner identify COVID on the death certificate for these reasons, right? Because we kind of instinctively, just had an idea that something was going to happen later on for families. And so, I feel bad for some of the families who know that their loved one may have passed from COVID-19, but their death certificate doesn't say as much because maybe they passed at home and never made it to the hospital or anything like that. And so they could have just said, the cause of death is unknown or something like that. And so I hope that families who do need this financial support actually go in and apply. FEMA.gov. There is, like it said in the clip, there's a whole fact sheet on the disaster funeral assistance program. And if you don't have all the documentation, work with your family to get it, apply with as much as you can. And, one thing that I really thought that was great is that they're going to be able to pay for funeral expenses that are unmet. And so if you have a debt with the funeral home, which again, this is a very common thing, you have these funeral homes just saying, you know what? I know you need to bury your dad. We'll pay for the cremation. We'll pay for the burial. Just reimburse our costs. You can turn in those receipts, and this money, this reimbursement money will cover those funeral expenses. So please take advantage of this if you need it. Take advantage of it because guess what? The Trump administration did not protect you or your family. And so the reason that COVID-19 killed your loved one is not on your hands. So apply for this funding and get your money back.
I agree. And man, I'm just having one of those days. I can't even pat the government on the back for even doing this because let's be clear. Like, this is our money. This is money that is coming from taxpayers that's going to be redistributed. So, this is yours. So go get what's yours. It's there.
And
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, can someone Converge or the Emerald, can you drop that link in the chat if possible? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we definitely want to get that out to people. Please share it. Give it to friends. Give it to family members. That money is available. Please take advantage. This is the least that the government can do for you. The absolute least.
Listen, a funeral would be so expensive. I think people don't know how much a funeral is until a loved one passes away. And when you are in a position of leadership in your family comes to you for those funeral costs. And guess what? In the middle of a pandemic, you don't have any money. I gave my last $250 to buy the food for my uncle's funeral, and I didn't have it. I did not have it. And so we're having these conversations about, this $200,000 threshold to get $1,400. $1,400 wouldn't even pay for the funeral expenses. You know what I did with my last stimulus check? Not this $600 round, but that first round. You know what I used that money for? To pay the videographer for my grandmother's funeral. So you talk about what are we using this stimulus money for? My stimulus check went to funerals both times.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat hit the nail on the head. They said people was not going to bury this money in their backyards. No, we are not, because we can't.
We need it.
Even through a pandemic, like, we need this. So
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for, Representative OAC again, Chuck Schumer again, two very powerful Democratic leaders, at the forefront of this. I know that I think there's a little bit more money going into New York, who was hit very, very, very hard. Again, I have loved ones right now, New York City and the Bronx. Everybody in the household has COVID. Now I'm thinking about, who else do I have to send this to in my family, you guys? So I appreciate all your love and prayers. I see it in the chat. Thank you guys for, always constantly loving on me and my family. COVID has struck my family like the plague. Okay. So sign up for this if you need it. Share the information, give it to a friend, help them figure out how to do this. If they don't have access to internet, if you have a senior that you're working with, your neighbor, check in with somebody who may not know how to prepare the documentation to get this reimbursement.
Yes, and let us know. I mean, look, we're a community. So if we need to take some time on the platform to pull that up and screen share how to make it through that, we'll do that for y'all. So just let us know. For real, man. We're here. We are a community.
We are. And speaking of community, there is a school community that wanted to initially wanted to opt out of Black History Month, a Montessori school in Utah. We got a quick clip. We have a clip. We'll play that and react to it. And I got some clap back for it.
Parents at Maria Montessori Academy in North Ogden were sent an email informing them that they would have the option to opt their child out of Black History Month lessons and events that were planned throughout the month of February. Now they're telling us the school is rescinding that offer.
I'm not exactly sure why anyone thought that they had to send out a document saying, I don't want my child to participate in this activity. That's what the document says.
Jamie's daughter has been a student at Maria Montessori Academy for 7 years.
And this is the first year that anything has ever been discussed about Black History Month.
Lex Scott, founder of Black Lives Matter Utah, says the decision to allow parents to opt out is appalling.
You can't opt out of Black history. Black history is American history.
In an email sent to parents, the school's director, Micah Hirakawa, says he is deeply saddened and disappointed that parents would opt their children out of Black History Month curriculum, and added that as an Asian American whose great-grandparents were thrown into internment camps, he values teaching students about the, quote, mistreatment, challenges, and obstacles that people of color in our nation have had to endure.
It's just heartbreaking that anyone who runs a school would believe that it is okay in any way, that it is acceptable in any way to try to ban talking about Black history.
Hirakawa was hired to replace the school's former director in April of 2020. Jamie says she believes he has made a genuine effort to include Black History Month lessons as part of the school's curriculum.
I just knew that he was as surprised as I was that probably a lot of families sent in the paperwork to not participate.
Lex says the ability for parents to opt out shouldn't have been an option in the first place.
He needs to learn from this. He needs to apologize and make sure that every child in that school learns about Black history.
Utah law does allow parents to opt their children out of portions of curriculum based on religious beliefs or right of conscience. But a representative with the State Board of Education clarified with Fox 13 that, quote, no student can be waived from state social studies standards, which include a focus on U.S. history, inequality, and race relations. Once again, Jamie Tracy tells me that within the last few hours, the school has sent out an email apologizing for the original opt-out option and has rescinded that offer.
I am just gagging and gagging. Is it February 2021 or are we back in like the civil rights era? Like, what are we talking about? Black history is American history. Like, you don't get an option to opt out. Like, and what's even crazier about this is that this is a Montessori school, and one of the key things about those schools is that they go outside of the typical learning methods. And so they should have been creating a really cool way, a creative way to educate students and allow them to learn Black history in a different way. So you're talking about activities, right? You're talking about, different art projects and, maybe creating, a video or something. So you have a school that's not like, this is not just like a public school. It's not even just like a standard private school. It's a Montessori school. So you would expect them to be at the very height. Like they should be setting the standard in how we teach American history, the Black history portion of it, the smallest month in the year in 2021 during a time where Black lives matters the most, right? And so I'm a little bit disgusted that leadership at this school felt that they needed to even allow parents an opportunity to opt out. They did come back with a statement on their website that says that they regret that after receiving requests, an opt-out form was sent out concerning activities planned during this month of celebration. So I'm kind of thinking like, what kind of parents is going to allow their students to opt out of learning about American history, about Black history, about the contributions made by Black people, by people who are the foundation and the cornerstone and have offered so much to America, and not want them to learn about it. I mean, it's crazy to me. And now, they're coming back with this statement that says, that for basically, with all of these concerns, they have a willingness to come to the table to resolve all of those differences. And there's no longer a reason to opt out. They've removed that as an option. And in the future, they'll handle all parental concerns on an individual basis. So it sounds like a parent went ham, and the leadership of that school allowed maybe a handful of parents, I'm making an assumption, maybe a handful of parents who felt some type of way about the activities and allowed people to opt out. But, one thing you can't do as a leader, you can't just give in to your parents. It's not their school. They're sending their kids to your school. So you are in charge of the curriculum, and that curriculum is controlled by the State Board of Education. So I'm glad the State Board of Education cut that off at the legs.
Damn, Julia. I'm about to have to clap back at you for taking the whole clap back. I mean, you took every single, I got notes. You just hit every single angle from leadership to the parents to.
No, you say it in your language.
Did you leave me? You left me nothing here.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. You are a parent. Yep. You're a parent. What is your experience as a parent? How would you feel as a parent if this were an offer, right, to you for your children at their school?
Well, I would say I'm a unique parent in that, first and foremost, in my formative years of education, I went to African American Academy, and I've said that here before. But my mom was big on Black history. We wasn't playing, so that was my education. So when my oldest daughter, who is 7 right now, about to be 8, when it was time for her to go to school, there was no more African American Academy. So we searched for institutions to put her in. So my daughter does not go to a Seattle public school. My daughter goes to a private school. They have a really big social justice focus at my daughter's school. As a parent, I wouldn't put up with that. Now, that being said, there's only 3 Black kids in this school that we're speaking of, and that doesn't make it okay. I'm just saying that to say that, the reports are that 70% of the families of this school are white. So I don't want to make assumptions here, but it looks pretty clear of who kind of went against Black History Month. I think that my larger point here, though, is I remember in the wake of George Floyd, when we saw images of Black Lives Matter protests happening in Salt Lake City, Utah. And for me, that was kind of a pivotal moment because I'm like, yo, if Black Lives Matter protests can happen in one of the whitest places in America, then maybe white folks really are coming around and we have some change. But here we are just months later, and it's almost like the whole George Floyd thing didn't happen. Like the whole summer of protests didn't happen. Like the whole racial and cultural awakening that people say that our country went through, it's almost like none of that stuff even happened because here we are yet again having the same stories and the same situations that Black folks have been complaining about for years and years and years. Black history is American history. And you said that, and you're absolutely right. And the idea of even giving parents the option to opt out, like, how do you opt out of Black history? That's like opting out of math. Like, this isn't tied to religion. This isn't tied to any ideology. Like, this is literally U.S. history. Like, you don't get to choose to not take U.S. history. It makes no sense, and it's appalling. And leadership in this school dropped the ball. And I'm frankly surprised that he still has a job. If this was my kid's school, I would be coming for his head. You don't send an option letter out to families to opt out of Black history and think that you're still going to work here. We would have came strong for that teacher if that happened at my kid's school.
And you know why they're not going to go strong and call out leadership on this? Because there's only 3 Black kids in that school.
Absolutely.
And I went to Tops, so I don't know anybody, I know our Seattle viewers are watching. Tops, I was one of like 5 Black people in school, and one of them was my brother. And so, and I know Amari's kids went to Tops. So, Tops was very much like a Montessori school. It was an alternative school, and not alternative in the way that we kind of know it now. But to be the Black representative in class was always kind of weird. But my parents were really strong on the PTA side, especially my dad. Like, my dad would roll up in there, and people would just acquiesce. Okay, like he wasn't having it, and so. The good thing about Seattle is, I really feel like I always had a seat at the table, whereas I don't know what Utah will bring, but I know that Utah probably doesn't have the same diversity standards as we do, and they probably don't have the same cultural competency standards as we do. But yeah, man, I get it. I know how it feels to be in a predominantly white school, and I enjoyed my experience at Tops, but I begged to go to Franklin thereafter. And I could see this. I could see parents galvanizing around something, particularly to your point, Mike, where during this time of cultural awakening, and what are our kids going to find out that goes against what we taught them at home? So I don't know. Glad that the leadership turned things around, and that this U.S. history program is going to continue and be implemented. Okay, but we'll tie a bow on that for now, and let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the Donald Trump impeachment. We're going to be talking about that for a while, y'all. So grab some water, grab a snack, and we'll be right here.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support.
Yeah. Welcome back to clapback culture. I want to take a brief moment just to shout out Amari, our leadership here at Converge Media. I watched the morning update. If you guys did not see the morning update this morning, please go check out the passion that is in this leadership here. We are an independent media company, and one thing that we do is we shape narratives around truth and only truth. And what we do here is we talk about things that are well researched, that are we show all the context to the story. And I'm just so proud of Amari, calling out these other media channels who shaped the narrative that victim shamed and just ban all these bandwagon people and this cancel culture and all this, all this craziness that's going on in Seattle with victims of gun violence. And so I'm just, I can't, I still have chills from just watching that segment this morning.
That was powerful this morning. And I gotta add to that, we hear the term community journalist and it gets thrown around a lot. It gets thrown around with, it's an honor for me to call myself a community journalist. But when we see and we see Trey and we see their reaction this morning, that's what it means to be a community journalist. Because as members of the community, it's not about just reporting on this, going home, next story, no, this stuff stays with you because this stuff hits home. Because these are people in the community, man. These is people that we know, people that we live with, man. And it's just, it's a tragedy. It's a true tragedy what happened. But it hit hard like that because it's so close to home, so close to his heart. Same with Trey, man. Like, these is her peoples. These is his people. So this is what we do with community journalism. People that are actually in the community, people that are actually from the community. You know what I'm saying? Talks about how he went to Garfield. I went to Garfield before himself and a couple other schools for various reasons. The point is, man, this is our community and we care about our community and we're going to do the reporting with care that you might not see in other places. So please, please, please support community journalism. Please support Converge.
Absolutely. whereweconverge.com/donate. So make that happen when you can, small donations as well. So look, speaking of truth and facts, we're in day 3 of the impeachment trial. I know we have a clip, but I do want to set up the clip. The clip is really small, but I do want to set up a little bit that I think what is so crazy to me is that we have been able to watch these Republican lawmakers detach themselves from something that was so real, that's so scary, and really just make this thing like it's red versus blue. And it's just crazy to me. So we'll play the clip for those who haven't been able to watch out this hours long trial that is being held for former President Donald Trump. We'll play that, and then I got a lot to share with you guys.
Some people think this trial is a contest of lawyers, or even worse, a competition between political parties. It's neither. It's a moment of truth for America. The evidence will show you that ex-President Trump was no innocent bystander. The evidence will show that he clearly incited the January 6th insurrection. It will show that Donald Trump surrendered his role as commander-in-chief and became the inciter-in-chief.
Listen, this is so out of control. I mean, listen, you guys, once you dive into this and you start watching, you're not going to be able to cut it off, because it is unfortunately exactly like it's reality TV. And I'm just like, oh my God, where is my popcorn? These lawmakers have really done the Democratic lawmakers have done a really great job at weaving together this really compelling narrative about the events that happened on January the 6th. And they're really starting from November all the way up to insurrection. And they're pulling hundreds of tweets. They're pulling security camera footage. They're pulling video, phone footage. They're pulling, Reddit and 8chan posts. I mean, Mike, it's so much. I'm astounded by how much was already out there. I am really encouraged by the level of just like evidence that we have against Donald Trump and just how quickly all of this stuff was put together. I mean, it is crazy when you start seeing all of these events slowly, how they all were put together.
The way they presented some of that evidence too is just like, whoa.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like,
a lot of stuff I didn't know about.
for real. I mean, and somebody put in the chat too that 15 Republicans didn't show up, and I'm so curious of how they're allowed to not show. Like you couldn't be a juror in a trial and then not come. You know what I mean? Like there will be repercussions for that. So how are they allowed to just not show up is just beyond me. But you're right. There's so much evidence, and man, some of that stuff is straight scary. It's scary.
Listen, I mean, first of all, Representative, I think it's Plaskett. Amari, you'll correct me on the enunciation. I know we got to get these names right. Stacy, she was so good. She's a representative from U.S. Virgin Islands and powerful Black woman. I mean, when she had her case log and she was going through page by page with straight facts. And I don't say facts lightheartedly, Mike Davis, because these are facts. These are actual video clips. These are actual tweets. If we were in a court of law, which essentially we are, if I'm watching it as if I'm somebody sitting on the grand jury, and I'm like, okay, should he be indicted? Absolutely. I mean, I'm only 3 days in, and I mean, we're talking about people who are trying to still keep this Trump mob, this Trump just era, just still in full effect and trying to take themselves, back themselves away from it. And there's just no way to get away from it. There's just absolutely no way to get away from this, Mike Davis. Donald Trump most definitely 100% incited this riot on the Capitol. And you will hear in the transcripts that these, and if you guys go back and watch, you will see it in the tweets, you will see it in the videos, that these insurrectionists were absolutely following the leadership of Donald Trump. And it is a sad day that we have people on the other side of the aisle, these Republicans who are sitting there saying, well, this is against the Constitution. This is not within the Constitution, and there's not enough evidence, and we just rushed to get here, and this, that, and the third. And how can you prosecute a president who's no longer president? Guess what? I will be sick and packing my bags to go to Canada if Donald Trump is not impeached after this, because right is wrong is wrong, and we need to take a bold stance to condemn white supremacism and everything that follows that ugly violence that ripped its ugly head on January the 6th. And let me tell you what else, Mike. We are blessed. We are blessed that not more people died that day.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for officers like Eugene Goodman that stood his ground, that helped to save individuals like Mitt Romney. You guys saw, I mean, footage, see how he saved his life. I mean, he put his life on the line for us. I was in DC during that time. And, a lot of these other House representatives talked about what it was like to experience that and be there in that moment. You're a person who's elected by the people. You're a person who's elected by the people. And you're there to do a job for the people. And you had Donald Trump being able to amplify this message, this lie over and over and over and over again, that this election was stolen from him. And I asked the question, and maybe you can answer this, Mike. What do you do? How do you respond? How is an American person supposed to respond if they know without a shadow of the doubt that their president that they support without a shadow of the doubt has told you that this election was stolen from me, and I need you to, the only way you can do it is go fight, And I'm also going to tell you the lie that Vice President Pence has the authority to change the results of the election. Go down to the Capitol. What do? You do just that.
You're absolutely
follow
right.
suit. You
Yeah.
follow suit.
I don't see how they can stand on freedom of speech. There's nothing really left for them to stand on. I feel like the only thing that they have left to do is to just not show up. The part that troubles me the most is, I mean, number one, you had all this evidence that was already there before the insurrection, and the insurrection somehow still happened and nobody stepped in to stop it. I pray that we never let that happen again. Hopefully they take white extremism serious from now on, because clearly they didn't take it serious before. But I mean, even moving forward, though, you still have so many Republicans who feel like they have to have this blind allegiance to Trump. And I'm not removing accountability when I say this, but I still have to say it because this is my observation. This is my opinion. That's a reflection of y'all, of Americans, of people, because they're playing to their constituency. They think that this is the position that they have to take to be reelected. And at some point, people, specifically white folks, y'all have got to step up and let the people that's representing you know that this is not what you want. Like, why would you yourself as American citizen want to be associated with something like this? They would never represent me. I would step up and say something. So please understand, like, they are playing to you when they're protecting Trump, because there's no reason left for any of those Republicans to still have this position outside of wanting to be reelected. So we need people step up, use your voice.
I mean, listen, Mike, at this point, we haven't even seen this mob being held accountable. There's only been a couple hundred arrests. And guess what? These people are at home with their families waiting to go on virtual trial for attacking the U.S. Capitol on the call to action placed by the president. And so when we talk about accountability, this is the type of accountability we need to see. And so I am calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump. I am calling for the imprisonment of the insurrectionists. And, you know, while I was listening to these stories, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not going to take away the responsibility for somebody's actions, but I'm thinking about these people have been fed this lie for so long. And and their response was to act in a matter of violence, and that doesn't make it right, Mike.
No,
but it when you think about who you have to hold accountable, you have to take it out at the head, right? That's what you have to do. So we can't say that, oh, this person who stole Nancy Pelosi's computer, or this person who did this, or this person who did that, are not just as responsible. Even if they're less responsible, but we have a person in leadership, the president of the free world.
Well,
this call to action, right? And so the way that the House Representatives are laying this out in this narrative and weaving these events together, there ain't, if we don't get an impeachment out of this, I mean, I
don't even know what to think anymore. I don't even want to imagine a scenario in which there isn't an impeachment and all of this. And I really wish these Republicans would stop acting like they don't understand what the game is. You need the impeachment so that he can't run for office again. He should never be able to run for office. You can't lead an insurrection and think that you can come back and run for the job again. Like, you've got to be crazy.
He spent $50 million. Donald Trump spent $50 million in campaign dollars to feed and fuel the advertisements about stealing the election. You're talking about being held accountable. There needs to be accountability for that, Mike. I mean,
there's no way around it. There's no way around it. There has to.
I encourage everybody to take a deep dive down that rabbit hole. I know you have a little bit of rabbit holes to talk about.
Speaking of rabbit holes,
which is a great way to segue into this, because a lot of the people who are a part of this insurrection also were a part of the conspiracy that is QAnon and all of that. And we talked about it last week. So I'm excited. I took a deep dive down the rabbit hole, Mike. I'm going to be honest with you. I did. I love conspiracies. I love documentaries. What do you have for us?
First of all, can I give a warning? I just got to warn. I want to warn our audience, man. Be careful with going down this QAnon rabbit hole because they'll get you. They're compelling. They almost had me, man. I almost thought that Hillary Clinton was a lizard person. These people, I mean, it's so crazy. It all started in message boards. It started with like the 4chan message board, which was it was inspired by 2chan, which came from like this subculture of Japanese kids who wanted to be able to get online and be 100% anonymous. So that was the whole thing in these channels was you could come in, be anonymous, say whatever you want, and there would be no consequences because everybody's anonymous. And it was like, say the most outrageous thing that you can, you'll be the most popular. So Q popped up in these message boards, Q Anon or Q Anonymous, and claimed to have Q level security clearance and claimed to be a government official that had all of this information. And it was crazy because Q would do these drops in these message boards and it would be like breadcrumbs. So like when you look at the Q drops, they're not even coherent. It's like a bunch of broken sentences, a bunch of like stuff that almost looks like code. But then you have people who call themselves bakers who take these breadcrumbs and then they go and they do all of the research and then they start posting. And then people start taking their posts and then they start posting and it goes from these message boards and it makes it to Facebook, it makes it to Twitter. And before you know it, we're looking at insurrection at the Capitol. But the craziest part is that, you know, one of the staples of QAnon is the protection of children because they're fighting against child sex traffickers. So
that's how they get people.
They get so many regular everyday people got sucked in because they thought that they were standing up against child sex trafficking. And then you end up down with these. And then it gets racist first. Like that's the first thing that happens. Then you start seeing like people calling Michelle Obama a man, and there's all of these transphobic things that happen. And then somehow you get to the lizard people and like government officials not being actual humans. And I mean, I'm reading about adrenochrome. So they believe that these rich people and people in Hollywood and politicians are harvesting the blood of children to drink it for adrenochrome, and it keeps you young and healthy. It makes you live longer. I see somebody putting Pizzagate in there, and I mean, the rabbit hole, it never ends, man. And they're jumping from message board to message board, and I mean, there's crazy stories. I mean, there's my guy Bucky Wolf, who was in the Pacific Northwest. He believed that his brother was really a lizard, so he killed him with a samurai sword.
Yeah,
bananas. There was another guy that found a leader of a mafia family and tried to make a citizen's arrest, ended up killing the guy. And at his sentencing, he puts up his hand and there's a big old Q on it. The rabbit hole goes deep. There's a really, really, really good documentary on Vice that we can drop. Please don't allow yourself to be sucked in, but there's more. They're like, there's more to this story, and I really want to keep researching, and I really want to come back to this because, I mean, there's just so much to digest, and I just can't believe that these people really got sucked in, and they really, really believe this stuff. It's crazy.
Well, you know how it starts, Mike? It starts with one little thing that you resonate with, right? And it's the profound condemnation of sex trafficking. And we know that's a huge issue. And it's like, oh my God, child sex trafficking? I'm totally against that. And then all the layers start peeling back and you're like, what? And one thing that's really cool and kind of jacked up about these message boards like 8chan or 4chan or, you know, any of these where all these kind of like anonymous, you know, people live. And I am a person who is addicted to learning about subcultures. I found out about subcultures back when MySpace first came out. So when the internet first, I was like, oh my God, there's like a subculture. There's people who are like just super into feet. Like, I thought that was so weird. There's things like people who are eaters and feeders, but I'll digress. So this QAnon situation is a big deal, right? Because you have millions of people around the world, not even just in the United States. You have millions of people around the world who believe and subscribe to this conspiracy. And what happens is these bakers, the people who are creating the content and kind of weaving together all of these little conspiracies and saying, oh, if Donald Trump goes on the news today and he uses the word dog, then it's going to make sure that oh my God, I'm thrown off from Leon saying it was Tom from MySpace. That's cute, right? But if you have these bakers, they weave together all this content and they make you feel like, oh my God, it's there. But if you're looking for something, you're going to find it, you guys. And so this is a time where again, don't fall down the rabbit hole and get sucked in. If you watch us, you're likely not going to get sucked in. But it is very interesting. It is very sad because a lot of families have lost their family members to this conspiracy, man. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And I know that we're up against the break, but to your point, there was also connections that go back to Donald Trump. So nobody knows who the original Q is. It could be a bunch of people. It could switch around. The documentary, we posted the link. It talks about it a lot. But in connection to Donald Trump, there was times where Q would do drops and say that, Donald Trump was going to say this phrase. And one of them that was famous was tippy top. He was that Donald Trump would say tippity top. And then Donald Trump got on TV on Easter and literally found a way in a speech to say tippity top. And that got the Q community going crazy. So it's a lot. It's deep. We will revisit it, but we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back, y'all. Hey, I like that.
I like that too.
Whoever made that, oh man, that was some heat. I like that beat.
Well, look, we are getting ready to wrap up our show, but before we go, we are still in Black History Month. We didn't opt out. And so we want to teach you guys a little bit about Fred Hampton. So let's run the clip.
I am the people. I'm not the pig. You got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pig.
Fred Hampton is arguably one of the most influential Black history leaders of the 60s.
The people are going to have to stand up against the pig.
Hampton graduated high school in 1966 with honors, then went on to pursue a law degree. He dropped out and became a member of the Black Panther Party in Chicago. He and other Panthers followed police, watching out for police brutality and using his knowledge of the law as a means of defense.
We have brought to trial here Fred Hampton.
Why do I have a lot of arrests? Because of harassment. Why is there harassment? Because the people that harassed me have set up a problem that made me disagree with them violently, and they set up this problem in order to exploit me and other people like me.
Quickly becoming leader of the Chicago Black Panther chapter, young Hampton made many significant achievements, such as negotiating a peace treaty between some of Chicago's most powerful street gangs.
We don't think you fight fire with fire best, we think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity.
While Hampton's intelligence and dominance made him a leader in the eyes of many, it also made him a threat to the FBI, who had already launched a secret operation entitled COINTELPRO that was aimed at dismantling the Panthers.
And why they want to get rid of me? Because I'm saying something that might wake up some other exploited people and some other oppressed people, and if all these people ever get together, then these pigs that are exploiting us, we'll be able to run them into the lake. That's why they want to get rid of us.
FBI leader J. Edgar Hoover saw the Panthers as a radical group of extremists that could grow strong enough to cause revolutionary change in the U.S. government.
We don't care what anybody says, whether they have guns or not, and badges or 18 uniforms. If whenever they step outside the bounds of legality into the bounds of illegality, then we'll blow their brains out if they're bothering the people.
The FBI opened a file on Hampton and began to tap his phones. He was later assassinated in a police raid led by the FBI. Hampton was shot and killed in his sleep laying next to his pregnant girlfriend. Despite the evidence that proved otherwise, Hampton's death was ruled as a justifiable homicide. He was only 21 years old.
Dang, I didn't know she was 21 years old when he was murdered.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy though, to sit here in 2021 and we think about the FBI and the CIA and the president and the administration launching investigative programs like COINTELPRO for a group of radicalized individuals who could revolutionary take over democracy. And we see it at the face actually happening on January the 6th. We have actual political elected officials who will not stand against white supremacy and domestic terrorism, even though it's laid out plain and clear. And so if you're Black and you're radicalized, which you're not really radicalized, you just understand the law and you won't stand any injustice. But when you actually take the law into your own hands and commit crimes, lawmakers want to just pretend like it never happened. So, great clip to share for Black History Month.
Absolutely. And I got to follow up just on that. Judas and the Black Messiah is going to drop tomorrow. So I thought it was especially important to run that clip to talk about Fred Hampton, because a lot of people are going to go and see that movie. And, this is Black History Month. So we want to make sure that all of y'all understand that that movie is a movie. And it's based around the snitch, not really Fred Hampton. And, I've seen a lot of early reviews of that movie, and they toned down Fred Hampton's politics a lot. They didn't talk about any of like his communist beliefs or any of that. So, and he was just, it's hard to believe that he was 21 and really able to speak and do what he did. And, he unified the gangs in Chicago to bring peace, to incorporate them into the movement for liberation. And, he had the Rainbow Coalition. And, a lot of people look at the Black Panthers as just, black, black, black. But you got to understand, the Black Panthers started off with Black power, but that slogan slowly changed to power to the people, because it wasn't just about Black people. It was about marginalized communities everywhere, globally, coming together. And that was a big part of his message. And unfortunately, he ain't here today to share that message. But I encourage you all, see the movie, support Black art for sure, but also do the reading and find out who he really was and what he was really about. And last but not least, on the topic of, school and curriculum, man, I walked in on my daughter 2 days ago, and her class was having a conversation with Elmer Dixon. And I'm like, and I knew that they were talking about the Black Panthers. But when I walk by and I see Elmer and I see all these kids and they're firing off questions about him and, asking them about the Black Panthers, and they had guns, and they're like, did the police know that they had guns? And watching Elmer navigate that conversation with the kids, it was powerful in that moment. And I just sat back and I watched my daughter and her homies have that conversation with the dude that brought the Black Panthers to Seattle. So, shout out to the Panthers, shout out to Elmer Dixon, Aaron Dixon, their little brother who started the BSU at Garfield High School, Michael Dixon. He was the security guard when I went to Garfield. I remember we went on a field trip to the Black History Museum, seeing pictures of him with the shotguns, with his afro and shit. So it was powerful. It's super powerful. So happy Black History Month to all of y'all. Make sure you talk to the kids and the youth, and make sure that, they know their history.
Hey man, I love the Dixon family. I went to school with Aziza Dixon. She went to Franklin High School, so her dad was always around, and she definitely was able to share those gems with us. So yeah, man, brush up on your Black history this month, man. Let's just dive deep. Support Black art. Support just education. Educate yourself. Re-educate yourself on things that you don't know about. So that is our show tonight. I had a good time chopping it up with you, Mike Davis.
Yeah, this was a good one.
This was a good one. This was a good one. We appreciate the love and support. You guys coming back every week. Make sure to pull up and follow me on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Treasure of JULES. Mike Davis, where can they find you?
You can find me at the South Seattle Emerald, southseattleemerald.com. You can find me on Twitter at Real M Davis.
Yep. And make sure if you are not following Converge on all social platforms, do so right now at WW Converge on all social platforms. That's our show tonight. We'll be back next week, this time, 7 p.m. You got it. We'll see you soon.
Good night, y'all.